There is a certain hour, a secret hour, when the world tilts wrong. At 3 o'clock in the morning, shadows grow longer than they should, and the hum of the refrigerator sounds like breathing. In the small apartment block at the edge of the city, the children knew this hour well, though none dared admit it aloud. For nights on end, they shared the same dream. A boy with round spectacles, a school uniform neat as Sunday, and a blue robot cat at his side. Standing in the hallway, where the wallpaper peeled and the lights hummed, his lips moved, and his voice, small and eager, whispered, "Let's play." The children awoke, sweating, clutching their blankets, and still, the dream returned. Again and again, until it was less dream than visitation. It was Akira, 8 years old, who broke first. He confessed to his older sister, Aya, that he had seen Nobita not only in sleep, but awake, standing by the television long after midnight, pale light dripping from his figure as though he were made of static. Aya told him not to speak nonsense, though in her chest her heart beat like a clock hammering time too loudly. That night, Akira swore he would not sleep. He stacked his pillows, set his Doraemon alarm clock, and waited. His eyelids were iron weights pulling him down, but still he fought them. And then, yes, he heard it. The flicker of the hallway bulb, the faint shuffle of slippers. He opened his door. There he was. Nobita. Round glasses, crooked tie, but the eyes. Good God, the eyes. They were white marbles rolled into sockets, sightless yet staring, and Doraemon, that cheerful robot, grinned too wide, his teeth tiny and countless like a fish's gullet. "Let's play," Nobita said. The voice was thin as paper, yet it rustled through the hall, sliding into every ear of every sleeping child. Behind Akira, doors unlatched, hinges creaked, and one by one the other children stepped out, sleepy-eyed, called by that voice they could not refuse. Aya too stumbled forward, her lips trembling though her eyes were closed, as if she dreamt and walked at once. Akira wanted to scream, but the sound caught like a stone in his throat. He reached for his sister, but Nobita smiled, or seemed to, though his face barely moved. The television in the living room came alive with a shudder. It hissed with static, then cleared. There they were, rolling green hills, pastel skies, the bright world of cartoons. The screen pulsed with light like a doorway. "Come on, Nobita," whispered. His voice was closer now, though Nobita's lips had not moved. "Come inside. Forever play. Forever friends." The children's feet shuffled forward. Aya was first, her small hands rising, reaching for the glass of the TV. When her fingers touched, the surface rippled like pond water. A moment later, she was gone, swallowed whole, leaving only the echo of her breath behind. One by one, the others followed, their bodies sinking into light. Their laughter rose, sharp and too quick, and bled into the speakers, a chorus of joy that rang hollow. Inside the screen, their forms appeared, animated now, mouths stretched wider than mouths should stretch, eyes glimmering like buttons sewn too tightly. Akira alone resisted. His toes gripped the carpet, his body frozen. Nobita tilted his head. For the first time, he stepped closer and Akira smelled him. Dust, old batteries, the tang of something long buried. "You'll be lonely if you don't come," Nobita said. The marbles of his eyes spun in his skull. "Come where it's always fun, where time never ends." Behind him, Doraemon's grin opened wider, splitting his face in half, a grin that reached his ears. The static on the screen howled, 1,000 white fingers beckoning. Akira fell to his knees, clutching his chest. He whispered, not to Nobita, but to the empty air. "No," but Nobita leaned down, cold breath brushing his cheek. "You already belong to us, you dreamed us. And what you dream, you cannot wake from." The lights flickered once, twice. The next morning, the parents of the building found every television on, screens humming with bright morning cartoons. Nobita and Doraemon laughed, chasing each other across the endless fields. And if you look closely, oh so very closely, you could see them all. The children of the block, running hand in hand with Nobita, their voices raised in laughter that never stopped. Their eyes just a little too white, their smiles a little too wide. And sometimes, when the cartoon paused between frames, you could swear they were pressing their hands against the inside of the screen, mouths opening, not in laughter but in screams. The school after midnight is not a place for the living. The walls sigh, the corridors stretch longer than day allows, and the clocks tick too loudly as if time itself resents still being awake. The janitor, Mr. Saito, knew all this, though he had never admitted it aloud. He'd worked at Yamazaki Elementary for 30 years, seen chalkboards polished to bone, and heard the whispers of paper rustling when no wind was near. He told himself it was tiredness, nothing more. And yet every night when he locked the doors, he left one hallway unvisited, the old wing where no classes were held anymore. But that night, the scratching began. It was faint at first, like a beetle crawling inside the plaster, then louder, sharper, chalk dragging across slate. The sound rolled down the corridors, echoing through the sleeping school. He should have ignored it. He should have locked the front doors and walked home under the comfort of streetlights. But a janitor's duty is a duty, and Mr. Saito, weary as he was, lifted his lantern and followed the sound. It led him to room 3. The door, though locked earlier, now hung ajar. Inside, the moon spilled through the tall windows, painting rows of empty desks with silver. And there, yes, at the front sat a boy, Nobita. Every child in Japan knew that face, round spectacles, crooked tie, hair falling across a worried brow. Only this Nobita was pale as river stones. His glasses cracked through one lens, and his uniform clung damp to his skin as though he had climbed dripping from some drowned place. On the blackboard, chalk scraped in his trembling hands. The words repeated endlessly, curling like claws. "Where is Doraemon? Where is Doraemon?" Mr. Saito's lantern flickered. He stepped forward, and the air grew cold enough to bite his knuckles. "Boy," he whispered, though his throat ached. "You shouldn't be here." Nobita stopped writing, slowly, painfully, his head turned. The cracked glass of his spectacles caught the lantern light, and behind them the sockets were hollow, filled with nothing but dripping dark. "Let's play," the boy said. And in that instant, the classroom filled. Desks that had been empty a moment before now held children, rows upon rows of them, faces gray, eyes wide, their uniforms stiff as burial cloth. Their heads turned together, 100 necks creaking like old wood, all toward Mr. Saito. "Let's play," they whispered in one voice. The janitor stumbled back, the lantern slipped in his grasp, sputtering. He turned for the door, but the chalkboard behind him screeched as words sprawled across it of their own accord, chalk moving by an unseen hand. "Stay. Stay." The whispers grew louder, a chant now rising like the wind before a storm. "Let's play. Let's play. Let's play. Let's play." The ghostly children rose from their desks, their shoes scraping the floor in unison, advancing, their hands lifting like puppets' hands. Nobita stood among them, face tilted, water dripping from his hair onto the chalk-dusted floor. "Doraemon left me," he said. His voice cracked, childlike and broken. "He left me alone. So I found new friends." One by one, the children's mouths split into smiles, wide and sharp, stretching too far across their cheeks. Their eyes gleamed like polished glass. "Now you can be our friend too," Nobita whispered. The lanterns sputtered out. The next morning, when teachers unlocked the school, they found room 3B neat and ordinary, the desks lined as always. Only one thing was strange. A new name had been scrawled on the blackboard in jagged letters. "Sight," and the chalk lay broken, wet on the floor. Sometimes, if you walk past the old wing at night, you'll hear the chalk again. Children laughing in whispers. 100 voices murmuring, "Let's play." The television should have been sleeping. That was the thought that kept circling in little Haru's mind as he lay on the tatami mat, his blanket pulled to his chin. Every night the TV should have gone dark with his mother's scolding hand pressing the switch. But sometimes after midnight the screen glowed by itself, faint and blue, humming like a throat clearing in another room. Tonight Haru's eyes blinked open to that familiar glow. The old set in the living room was awake, its light creeping under the sliding paper door. striping the floor like a pale wound. Haru rose, padding barefoot across the boards, his heart thumping not from fear but from curiosity, the dangerous kind children are born with. The cartoon played. Of course it did. Nobita ran across the screen, his clumsy limbs flailing, glasses flashing. Doraemon followed, round and smiling, that same happy song drifting from the speakers. But the air felt wrong. The cartoon's colors were not bright. They bled at the edges, blurred as if the ink had soured. Nobita stumbled, fell, rose, stumbled again. The loop repeated. Then, without warning, Nobita stopped. He turned. He turned too slowly, as though the frames had grown heavy with dust. His head swiveled, and for the first time in Haru's life, Nobita looked not at Doraemon, not at the bullies, not at his endless gadgets, but straight through the glass into Haru's wide, sleepless eyes. The cartoon froze, and then Nobita smiled. It was not the goofy, worried grin Haru knew from 1,000 daytime episodes. This smile stretched like wet paint across his face. Behind the glasses, his eyes were white, hollow, gleaming with static. The speakers crackled. A voice crawled out, slow and cold. "Don't sleep." Haru stumbled back. The tatami floor groaned beneath his small feet. The cartoon resumed. But now Nobita was no longer clumsy, no longer falling. He walked forward, step by step, toward the edge of the frame. "Don't sleep," the voice repeated. "If you sleep, you'll wake here." Doraemon laughed in the background, but his mouth split too wide, teeth shining like porcelain shards. The laugh warped into static. Haru rubbed his eyes hard. When he looked again, God help him, he saw something worse. In the background of the cartoon, among the painted trees and houses, another figure stood, small, dark-haired, pajama-clad. The boy's face was pale, familiar. Haru's own. It was him. Haru pressed a hand to his cheek as though to prove his own existence. On the screen, his cartoon double waved. Nobita's hollow eyes glimmered with triumph. The television hummed louder, its glow spilled wider, flooding the room, painting every wall with false daylight. The edges of the screen rippled as if its glass was turning to water. Haru's feet lifted, though he had not moved. His body tilted, dragged by invisible strings. The screen pulled him closer, closer. "Forever," Nobita whispered. Haru screamed, but his scream made no sound. It became laughter on the speakers, a child's giggle distorted, echoing through the building. The next morning, his mother found the television off, perfectly off. Haru's futon lay folded neatly, his slippers by the door, as though he had simply risen early. She never saw him again. But if you leave your television on too long, past midnight, past the witching of 3, sometimes you'll catch a flicker in the background of that endless cartoon, among the blurred colors and painted skies. A new child runs. His mouth is open in a smile, but if you lean close, you'll hear it's not laughter. It's a scream stretched thin across eternity, and Nobita, round spectacles flashing, stares out at you with his hollow eyes, whispering, "Don't sleep, don't sleep, don't ever sleep." The apartment block was tall, 12 stories, built in the 70s, its walls tired with peeling paint, its elevator groaning like a trapped animal whenever someone pressed the call button. It was nearly 3:00 a.m. when Kenta, 14, trudged home from his part-time job stacking shelves. He yawned, pressed the elevator button, and watched the light flicker weakly above the door. Ding! The doors parted with their usual sigh. The elevator was empty. Or so he thought. Kenta stepped in. The doors slid shut behind him. The car jolted, hummed, then began to climb. Floor 3, floor 4, and then the lights flickered. A boy was standing in the corner now. Round glasses. A school uniform dark with stains as though he had fallen in water and never dried. Nobita. Kenta's breath hitched. He hadn't seen anyone enter. He hadn't heard a step. The elevator hummed. The boy didn't move. Floor 5, floor 6. Kenta tried not to stare, but his eyes betrayed him. Nobita's gaze was fixed downward, but his lips trembled, whispering words Kenta could barely hear. "Doraemon! Doraemon!" The elevator jerked, shuddering. The panel flickered. For an instant, every button lit up red. Kenta jabbed the button for his floor. Harder, desperate. The light didn't respond. When he turned, Nobita was no longer in the corner. He was standing directly beside him. His glasses caught the fluorescent light, hiding his eyes. His hand twitched at his side, slow, jerky, as though strings pulled him from some unseen hand above. The elevator doors opened. Not on Kenta's floor. Not on any floor he knew. Instead, the hallway stretched endlessly. The walls were gray, lined with lockers like a school corridor, shadows writhing in the corners. Chalk scraped faintly from far away, though no hands moved across any board. Kenta froze. Nobita stepped forward, tilting his head, whispering, "Let's play." The lights went out. The elevator screamed downward, cables groaning, metal shrieking, but Kenta never felt the impact. He never woke in his bed. He never returned home. Neighbors said the boy vanished that night. But sometimes, when the hour passes 3, the elevator stops between floors. The doors open to that same impossible hallway, chalk dust floating in stale air. And if you're unlucky enough to be inside, you'll see them. Rows of children sitting at broken desks, their heads turning in unison, faces pale, whispering in voices not their own. "Let's play, let's play." And Nobita, standing at the front with hollow eyes, calls the roll.